Hey, looks like I'm live. It's my first time using my new home in Dayton, and so I'm just working on getting the lights right. I'm gonna take a little time to get quiet here. I would encourage you to do the same. As I said in the description, this isn't me teaching. I'm not a teacher. This is really just an opportunity to get quiet, explore the words, what they mean to me, the import they have for my life. And I'm not here to do that for you. I'm here to kind of share what I'm doing and hopefully create a space where you do the same. So we'll just get quiet. When I say get quiet, I guess I'll explain what I mean, why I'm doing that. So I take my mind as I first sat in this chair and was messing with YouTube, helping it go live, doing what I needed to do. Once it was up and I knew it was up, as soon as I closed my eyes, as I did on camera a few moments ago, I felt the energy of my thoughts, the thinking I was doing, the activity. And as soon as my eyes close, I feel that. And then I start to feel that settle. All that activity, the mental activity, the physical activity, the tasks, that starts to settle and something else settles in. Any words I use to describe it are really not going to be adequate. If I say the words, they feel, I don't like the words so much, but they feel dirty. They leave a taste in my mouth. It's just not adequate. It's not really describing the experience, the settling that happens. So I would encourage you to do the same. Thoughts may come. It's okay. We're not pushing thoughts away, not trying to empty the mind, nothing like that. There certainly is a time with practice where the mind will settle, as I'm describing, but it doesn't. If it's not, if this isn't something you would normally do, it probably won't happen the first time, and no big deal. But if you can find a still place in your mind from which to watch the thoughts, that's a good place to be. Whatever that means to you, there's no right or wrong way to do it. But here's why I do this. Here's why I don't read until the mind is quieted down. If you sit with yourself long enough in silence, you start to recognize when the mind tries to insert itself into situations, into texts like we're reading today. The mind wants to insert itself, it wants to make itself master. And as everything I'm doing, this is a very personal process that I'm just happen to be sharing on YouTube. So I'm not telling you how it is for you, but for me, I know the results that accrue when my mind leads. I know where and when I say I mean that thinking mind, the conscious mind. I know where the conscious mind leads. And I don't want to go there. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm not even saying it's wrong. I'm not making any judgment about it. But I personally have seen the results of relying on my impulses, the conscious mind, the way it leads. And you know what? I'm trying something different. So I'm going to relax into this still, soft place. It's like sitting in a cool stream on a hot day, a little waterfall falling over your head. Just your awareness sitting here. You're breathing. When thoughts come, little disturbances, it's almost like a pond. The mind is like a pond. Those disturbances spread out to the edges. Maybe there's some glassy stillness left in its place. That's the place that I would choose to operate from. So it's a choice. It's not right or wrong. It's not a place you should be. It can be a place you choose to go. And my experience is that this place, this quiet place, this place that can't be described, but could be described as the cool stream on a hot day, the warm blankets in front of a fire on a cold night. Whatever imagery comes to mind of the comfortable, soft, gentle place. That, but amplified, beyond description. That's the place we're headed, and it's okay if we don't get there. There's no right or wrong way to do it. Just settle to the extent you can. Because this is the place where the still small voice is. And I don't remember where in the Bible it is. It's Old Testament. So I'm paraphrasing. But one of the prophets talked about a raging fire. The voice of God was not in the fire. And there was a great wind. We can, in the US, think of it as a tornado. That wasn't the voice of God. And I'll throw in a hurricane. It's not the voice of God. The voice of God is a still small voice. But as a consequence of being still and small, the mind, I'm going to emphasize that, the mind can easily cover it over. The still small voice is always there. God is always speaking. But what are you listening to? Are you listening to the still small voice, or are you listening to the mind So we come to this place. We're here in this present moment. And however you do it, and I'm going to say this verbally because I'm going to be quiet, but however you open up, however you pray, let's do that for a couple of minutes here. For me, I'm just going to stay quiet. But if you speak out loud, speak out loud. Maybe you say a particular prayer. If you have a religious background that includes those kinds of prayers. Maybe you meditate if your background includes meditation. If you're an atheist, there's still something here for you. Just get quiet in your way. If you don't have a belief in the divine, that's okay. Because when you quiet your mind, the good stuff will come forth, you'll see. You don't have to believe. And after this little bit of quiet time for prayer, meditation, for quiet, I'll read and we'll go from there. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. We'll sit with those words for a few moments. Not thinking, letting them marinate from that quiet place. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. When we sit with a passage like this, the key for me is to stay quiet. This isn't a thinking process, analyzing, not like that. Because if we sit in a still place long enough, with openness, an open heart, impressions will land. So I contrast these impressions with the kind of thinking we normally do. Ordinarily, we think things like, if this, then that, or we search the memory for what somebody else said about a verse like this. The mind goes, those wheels turn. Here we just sit in quiet anticipation, listening. For me personally, I know if it's the mind working, if the thoughts come, the wheels turn. And I know I've tapped into the still small voice when those impressions land fully formed. They do not land with words. And I can't speak for anyone else, but they do, for me, never land with words. It's an impression, a knowingness, and it takes a moment to translate that knowingness into words. And it never feels like I've quite done it. To me, the impressions that come from the still small voice are ineffable. They can't be described with words, but I do my best, sometimes. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Today, what lands for me, the impression that comes, is a focus on the word blessed. I did this process with this verse about a week ago. And I was drawn to the poor in spirit. And we'll get to that. But this time, I was drawn to blessed. And I want to say something else about how the mind works and sometimes how the still small voice is clear. When I'm slightly uncomfortable, when the mind wants to do something else, but I know that I'm drawn to something in particular, something the mind isn't necessarily interested in going to. That's another sign for me. Blessed. I felt the impulse to skip that word. Probably because my mind wants something familiar, something I've already sat with. But blessed, hadn't really considered that. This is the way the mind works. It pulls toward the familiar. It pulls in the direction that our trauma takes us. It pulls in thousands of directions, but usually not the right one. Blessed. Blessed. And just sitting with it, encouraging you to do the same thing. Or if your mind has been pulled, if your heart has been pulled toward another word or another component here, just be there with it, sit with it. You may repeat it. For me, the process is to repeat the word very slowly, sit with it. Blessed. Here's a situation where the mind brings up the idea of prosperity, financial prosperity. It's the mind. It's okay. I want to make sure you understand. I'm not saying the mind is bad, but it is just one of the things, one of the sources of input we have. So I can take that prosperity that I imagine, a beautiful home, and in this, I truly believe this is a beautiful home I'm sitting in now, but I mean really beautiful. Maybe a home that I own, a car that isn't however many years old, 12 years old. But as soon as these words leave my mouth, and I could probably go on if I forced myself to, seems empty and flat. Blessed. That's not where I feel led when I hear the word blessed, when I sit with, when I marinate on the word blessed. I'm blessed with my beautiful wife and daughter. I'm blessed with, honestly, a life that is better than I could ever have imagined up until about 4 years ago. I'm blessed for the first time in my life, and I really mean the first time in my life, with a relationship with the divine. I'm blessed in so many ways. The material stuff has little to do with it. And to just comment on this process, because that's why I'm here. I'm holding space for this. So I hope that you're following this process on your own. I'm not going to force the process. I don't know where it heads from here. But I am blessed. I'm blessed. I'm blessed. And I know with certainty that if I had continued to follow my mind, the mind that was addled with profound anxiety and depression, if I had followed the dictates of my mind, I can't even fathom the suffering I would be immersed in right now. I can't imagine suffering deeper than what I was experiencing 4 years ago, 5 years ago. Well, I'm sure it's available out there in this world. So by analogy, as wonderful as life is, as blessed as I truly am, analogously, I know there's even more blessing. I just feel my heart open. And if I choose what it means to be blessed in this moment, it's more openness, more love for those around me, more natural love for those around me, a greater willingness to help, to reduce the suffering of others. To me, that's what being blessed is. More opportunities to love. But this is going to be different for everybody. This is my process. Yeah, I'm doing it publicly. This is just my process. What does blessed mean to you if you're following along? And I'm drawn to remember the list that I probably still have in my phone under the notes. A list of all the attributes that I was looking for in a partner. I think it was 8 major points with some subpoints. And I remember distinctly thinking, man, if I found somebody that had 5 of these 8 points, I would be beyond ecstatic, satisfied. That's my mind. My mind came up with that list of 8 things and was willing to settle for 5. Blessed to me is what happened. Blessed is meeting and loving somebody who makes those 8 points that I wrote using my mind, makes them obsolete. I am so glad I didn't get what I asked for. I'm so grateful I didn't get what I asked for. In that case, that's blessed. And where that takes me is surrender. I am truly blessed when I surrender. And I wasn't intending by moving towards surrender to get to the poor in spirit. But that's where I find myself. I find the shift, to comment on the process that's happening internally. There's a kind of shift, a little bit of a chill that goes down the spine. Okay, time to move on. Blessed are the poor in spirit. And so I'm going to leave the word surrender there. And now I'm called into the poor in spirit. Blessed are the poor in spirit. I see the opposite, pride. Rather than defining poor in spirit in this moment in the positive, I'm defining it in the negative. The opposite of pride. Though it's not really a phrase, what would it mean to be rich in spirit? I see really myself haughty. I know what's true. I know, and I'm here to tell everybody what it is. That would be rich in spirit. I am the way, the truth, and the life. That would be rich in spirit. I am. I am. That focus on I, that pulling inward, that is rich in spirit, if you will. The pride, the opposite of surrender. I think of surrender often because the physical sensation of truly surrendering can feel like falling. So I think of surrender as stepping off of the cliff, arms wide, and relaxing as that falling sensation comes in. And that's as accurate as I can get with the sensation of surrender. To me, the pride, the opposite of poor in spirit, is the standing on the cliff. Look at me. I'm on this cliff. I'm special. I know I have something to offer. I am powerful. But what also comes to mind is that there's another kind of pride. I am nothing. I am worthless. Those kind of statements. That's not, that is not what poor in spirit means to me. Self-deprecation, insecurity, self-hatred. That's another kind of pride because it makes me the center. It makes me the center. So I'm this either this sinkhole of depravity and wretchedness, or I'm this God on this cliff standing. And to me, being poor in spirit is neither of the two. It's the razor's edge between the two, which is so often the case. And to me, it's an attitude of arms wide, relaxing into what is in this moment, not trying to seize control with pride, not trying to shrink into the whole, oh, I don't like what this is. It's not good for me. To be poor in spirit is to approach what is arms wide open. Acceptance would be another word. Surrender. And willingness. I don't know where that comes from. Willingness comes to mind. Willingness to be here in this moment with what is. Yes, being here in this moment, present with what is. not trying to seize control, white knuckle it, change the present, to relax into what is, to trust, to love fiercely, unconditionally. And I wasn't, I didn't say it, but during the silence, as often happens, I found myself releasing, letting go of tension, this kind of pulling inward that happens. It really feels like pulling inward, squeezing. And sometimes it manifests as physical tension, like clenching. But this, it wasn't clenching, my muscles weren't clenching. But there's a kind of attitude of openness that it can feel like the chest opening up, armor dropping. It's a physical sensation for me, and I don't know that it is for everyone. But to be poor in spirit, to me, is to be unarmored against what is, to embrace with open arms what is. And where does that take me? I'll be blessed. And coming full circle, really to be blessed for me is to be in this place right here, right now. That armor dropped. In this place of stillness. Communing with God. And I'm approaching these passages, these verses, as if I've never read them. And obviously that's impossible. But I do want to say the insight that's coming to me now about Matthew 5, 6, 7, Sermon on the Mount. These are a formula for surrender. These verses are a formula for surrender. And another insight that comes to mind, yes, I'm going to work through these day by day, and I have been. But if we stop today, blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. If we stop today and we live this single verse, whatever it means to you, not what I'm saying, but I suspect that if you stop today, never hearing another one of these videos, never reading another verse, not that I'm encouraging you to do that, but if you stop with this and you apply your whole being to discovering what it means to be poor in spirit, to fully embodying that quality, I suspect the rest of the verses are probably going to apply to you. Blessed are the meek, for they will possess the land. Blessed are those that mourn, for they will be comforted. So as we close, what I'll do is, again, just open myself. And if you have a way of praying, I would encourage you to pray, meditate, whatever that means to you, whatever your tradition is, if you have one. If you don't have a tradition, just sit quietly, listen. And you may offer words asking to discover what it means to be poor in spirit and to embody that. That's a beautiful way of doing it. My way of doing it is without words, to open myself to plead without words. I don't know if plead is the right word, but it's the one that's coming to mind, to plead without words, with total openness, that I embody this quality of being poor in spirit. Not just today, though. This isn't the kind of thing where I just want to read this and I want to work through it. And today I'm going to really focus on poor in spirit. No, I'm asking, imploring without words, to be given the lessons, the experiences today and for the rest of my life that lead me to that place where I'm truly poor in spirit, to be open to what the divine is saying in every moment, not just in moments like this, but to exist in that quiet place where the still small voice is heard above the din of the outside world, above the din of the mind. So let's just pray for a moment. I'm going to be quiet. Do it your way, but pray. You may find yourself throughout the day thinking on this verse, and I would encourage you to do that. Periodically throughout the day, allow it to come up, and again, just allow it to marinate and see what comes forth from this one verse. The wisdom, the deep, deep wisdom in this one sentence out of hundreds upon hundreds in the Gospels, the red letters. How will that change your life? How will it change my life? To me, God is not a concept to be grasped, to be understood with the mind. If God can be understood with the mind, then it's not God to me. To me, God is not just an emotion, a feeling that I get, a good feeling that I get. Is not just, and I'm going to emphasize the word just. God is not just that thing. God is not just a thought. God is an experience that's available to all of us at all times. But will we listen? Will we listen? Will we open ourselves to that experience? And that experience can be uncomfortable. That experience can be overwhelming. But if you want to dive in with me, let's dive in. Feel free to reach out. I'd love to hear from you. You are loved. You are love itself. I hope you have a wonderful day.